Hey everyone, it's Blair here with Time Trades. Hello and welcome back for this week's video. Lots to cover with Friday's flush in Bitcoin leading the way. You're looking at Bitcoin in TradingView right now, and I'm using the new Time Trade script that's going to be part of the website launch on Thursday, December 9th. So you're going to be able to get your hands on what you're seeing then. I'm going to use it for today's video because it is helpful to, I guess, understand some of the pricing trends, and I'll show some of the techniques that I use. So this is very similar to the cheat code script that is already out there and available today. But you'll notice there's additional vertical lines here, and these vertical lines are natural cycles that I'm drawing on the screen. And what I found is typically with these vertical lines, they do tend to indicate bars that are more important than most. Sometimes they're lows, sometimes they're highs. Usually they represent at least local reversals and sometimes very, very important reversals, like over here on September 29th. This was the low bar before Bitcoin's big pump. So how am I making use of these? I am using these right now to anchor VWAPs. So we've got a total of 5 anchored VWAPs on the screen, each one anchored to each of the last 5 of the light gray vertical bars. And this is how I'm representing price. I want to go back to that triangle diagram that I've been using for the last 3 weeks or so that kind of represents the importance of different aspects of analysis, with price being the most important part of analysis. And I wanted to incorporate a time element in that, not just look at, price alone. So this is how I'm doing that. I'm anchoring these volume weighted average prices to these natural cycle days that appear in the Time Trades script. So what is this telling me? Well, it's telling me that especially after Friday's flush, price is underneath all of the 5 most recent anchored VWAPs. So if we zoom in here, could we have anticipated this flush? So in last week, for most of last week, there was a very narrow trading range, and it was above only one of the 5 most recent VWAPs. The others were all overhead. And all of these VWAPs represent basically trap buyers. When they're overhead, they're trapped longs. Okay, so this is the volume weighted average price since each of these natural cycle days. And what this means is there's definitely overhead supply here. You'll notice price is not getting close to, I mean, it is on a couple days, but in general, not getting close. So there's a lot of frustrated bears out there. And in fact, I think I tweeted that out a couple days before the crash, because most of them are underwater. And then when price started to fall below the most recent VWAP that was anchored on the November 22nd natural cycle day, that's when things started to accelerate. And again, we see the price behavior at this natural cycle day being super critical, right? So if you could almost do like a opening range breakout play, if you're familiar with those, and just focus in on the opening range, or not even the opening range in this case is a daily chart, just use a daily range breakout, right? Whatever direction price breaks coming out of these natural cycle days, trade in that direction, right? Then you would have been able to catch this. So I'll be honest with you, I'm still developing my thinking in terms of how to best use these natural cycle days. This is a work in progress. I would love to hear your thoughts in terms of how to best use these, but it's clear from looking at the TradingView chart that these are significant days, and there's a way to use them to improve the profitability of your trading. This VWAP idea of mine is just the first idea that came into my head. I've got some other ideas. I'd like to hear yours. Drop them in the comments, and together we can figure this out and help all of us become consistently profitable. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. And that's the price analysis part of Bitcoin. Let's drop into time trades a little bit for some context, right? Because that's the other part of our model, is we start with price, because price is most important, and then we take a look at context. And here we are with Bitcoin. We've got the Gann waves up. These are the yellow and blue stripes. Now, what happens in blue? Well, there doesn't seem to be any real clear answers here in terms of what happens in blue. More often than not, it tends to be pivot lows, right? Just going back and visually looking at this through time tends to be pivot lows. Kind of makes sense that we would see a pivot low around here. We did not get a pivot low the last time we were in blue in early November. We got a pivot high instead. Maybe that was telling us something, right? We've got a very low probability of an actual pivot low forecast here, 14%, and that's for Monday. Maybe we get a bit of a bounce coming back up. But I think the context, the overall context that I'm reading into this is, certainly from a price standpoint, we're oversold. May get a little bit of a bounce coming out of this, but in general, bearish conditions continue. The probabilities of pivot lows are dominant over the next little bit. The probabilities of down days are dominant through, January. I think the most we can expect on the bull side is basically a correction in a broader declining market, right? Looking out until March, we've got some forecasts here for pivot lows that are pretty confident, 90-ish%. But we've got a couple waves of big moves down to get through until then, right? We've still got more down days forecast in December. We've got another wave of down days forecast in January, and the final wave will wrap up in late February. So if you're a bull in Bitcoin, definitely be patient. If you're holding, mentally prepare yourself for lower prices. If you're a trader, then there should be some good two-way trading action coming up, right? Volatility is definitely on the uptick, but the bias is going to be down at least until March. And then after March, Time Trades is telling us we've got a chance at a renewed uptrend. We'll use our VWAPs anchored to those natural cycle dates to identify when price trends have changed, okay? So that's Bitcoin. Let's go and take a look at tech stocks. So I like to look at the Qs. We're here and take a look at the Qs. I've got this set up here using NASDAQ futures. And again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 VWAPs anchored to these natural cycle dates. Again, I'm using this time trade script that you're going to be able to get your hands on this Thursday. Price, especially after Friday's flush, is below all 5 of those VWAPs. So again, representing trap buyers. So price action definitely bearish. We may be expecting a bit of a recovery in the near future. Just a bit of a reaction bounce from yesterday's or Friday's big day down. But what's the broader context? Is it going to be anything more than a reaction bounce, or are we going to be starting a new trend here? I think the challenge is just going to be getting through this black period between purple and green, right? From what we've seen, these black periods around purple tend to be where some of the big moves happen. So if we zoom out here, we can see there is a big move up between purple and green. Here's another move up with a lot more volatility between purple and green. This last time in 2020, in July of 2020, there wasn't much move there. It was pretty quiet. And in February, just before the COVID peak, the pre-COVID peak in February 2020, there was a big move up, but very late, just before the start of the green period. That being said, I think we need to just be very defensive coming into this black period, because that's where we tend to see some of the bigger moves. It wouldn't surprise me if price chops around a bit here in purple before really asserting itself in this black period here. So let's take a look at time trades for the Qs and see what it's telling us. In the short term, we've got a pivot high here for December 7th. Again, when we look at the broader context in terms of Gann waves, the Gann wave blue periods tend to show moves down late in the blue period, right? So the last blue period we had here, there was a move down late in blue. In October's blue period, it was kind of flat, but it went down heading into that blue period. Late in blue over here, actually the first day after blue in September, down. We had a couple red candles in August. Back in July, it was up. So on the whole, the context for the blue periods in the NASDAQ tend to be down. Time Trades is forecasting a pivot high on Tuesday, December 7th. So we may see a little bit of a recovery here heading into Tuesday, and then a renewed drop. Now, in last week's video, we talked a little bit about Bitcoin leading the NASDAQ. So let's revisit that thesis and see how that's going. So if we go back to TradingView here, and we take a look at the NASDAQ, of course, the theory was that Bitcoin's leading the NASDAQ by about 2 weeks. So is that still holding or not? So let's go to Bitcoin. And all right, so we've got a Bitcoin high around November 10th, right? So 2 weeks after that would be November 24th. What happened to the NASDAQ November 24th? It was basically 2 days after this high. So instead of the spread being 14 days, it looks like it's about 12 days, which, who knows, it may be due to trading days versus calendar days, that sort of thing. So we've got a high in the NASDAQ about 12 days after the corresponding high in Bitcoin. So what if we take the flush on Friday and add 12 days to that? So we take the flush on Friday, that's December 4th, plus 12 days, we get December 16th, okay? What is Time Trades saying about December 16th? So if we flip back to Time Trades, we go over here, we've got a 40% probability of a 1 standard deviation move down on December 16th, and that's also happening right before a yellow period, which more often than not tends to be bullish. So this is really interesting, because if this relationship holds, then we've got some confluence here with the Time Trades forecast of a big down day on December 16th. So in summary, I think what we can anticipate is maybe a short 1 to 2 day correction in the NASDAQ but still, we got to understand we're in a broader bear market, right? We've got pivot lows forecast for January and for March. If we look at some of the other indexes, like IWM is really interesting. IWM just made some big highs over here in November, and now it's having a flush down. It's got some very high probability pivot lows in December and in January, and complemented by some high probability down days. So if you're a bear, if you like to make your money on puts and downtrends, then IWM looks like a great way to do that. Even though it's come down from 240 to 210, it looks like that this range is likely to break down over the next couple months, right? So we could see some breakdown, some potential breakdown to prices not seen since, you know, November last year, right? So this is a very interesting and eventful period coming up, and one where if you're on the right side of the trend, it has a potential to be very profitable. So let's wrap up today's call with a little review of what we can see in the model screen. So I've got the model screen here. I've sorted by the activity rating, and this shows this is basically a number that represents the forecast price activity over the next 5 trading days. And we can see here that the financial subsector in the S&Ps are very active. And this is why financials are forecast to have a number of down days in a row starting Tuesday, December 7th. Okay. So this would be a nice high probability bearish play, okay, according to the time trades forecast. So that's XLF. I also want to go over fuel cell caught my eye. That's one I've traded in the past. If you like to take counter trend trades, fuel cell's got a pivot low coming up, followed by some up days. So fuel cell could be in a position to enjoy an uptrend for a period of 1 to 2 weeks here between December 14th through the 23rd. Okay, so that's an interesting one. What else do we have? Ford. So Ford's got some activity coming up. Again, it looks like on the downside. Oh, wow, look at that. Beautiful range. I mean, if you're a classic technical analyst, you would be selling on any breakdown of that range. And you love to see this, right? You love to see the probability of the down days complemented by a pivot low coming up. So Ford, very interesting opportunity here. So what else do we have here? Pizza, Domino's Pizza. Again, pressure on the downside for Domino's, okay? And that's gonna be starting really on Tuesday. And the last one I'll show is BABA. BABA may be back from the dead soon. So BABA's just been getting crushed down from like 220-ish to 120-ish. Looks like there's potential for a few up days coming up later this week. If you like to catch falling knives and see some potential here, go for it. Definitely wait on price to confirm. This is not something you'd want to be entering and hoping based on the time trades forecast alone. Let price confirm that it is indeed reversing. All right, so that's it for this week's video. I hope you all have a great week coming up, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks, bye now.